Perfect. So I think we're live. Hey,
Yeah,
everyone.
we are. We're showing.
All right. How's it going? Hey, everyone. So, in case you haven't noticed, we're missing someone today.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like there's something missing, but I couldn't quite put my finger on
I know it might be somebody.
it.
We have to address the elephant in the room here. And the elephant in the room here is that I was in Spain yesterday and still made it back in time for the podcast. Alan hasn't left and hasn't made the podcast tonight.
I mean, to give him credit though, he is working on an actual independent film at the moment.
And what's
So
the
I
name of the
mean,
film?
he's
It's You Have to Watch This Podcast, the movie. He's telling our origin story, how we all met and came together as a podcast.
I thought you were legitimately asking me, and I'm like, I can't remember what he said the name of it was.
My
I
favorite part
feel
is that
bad.
my favorite part is you tried to answer it. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
I think it's a World War II movie because I remember him saying something about people in uniform or something like that, and his film set looks really cool. It looks like an airplane or something today.
That's cool. That is
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah. Before we dig into any of this, I just wanted to check in. How are you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing okay. I
Yeah,
am. It's getting to be late December. It's hectic for a lot of people. It's hectic for me. So
yeah.
I mean, but I'm good.
If it makes you feel better, I'm in exactly that same headspace. I have. I'm going to tell this story because it's embarrassing. And here we go. So I have a coworker who's taking a day off tomorrow because their friend passed away, so they're going to the funeral for that, which is
Ooh,
incredibly sad. I know,
yeah.
awful. So I was talking to that person today, and I am so not here in some cases. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I see you have a day off tomorrow. What fun things are you going to do?"
Oh no.
And she's like, "Oh, Devin, you forgot why I'm off, didn't you?" And I went, "Oh no, I'm just the worst kind of person."
Just play up the stupid American thing, and they'll you know let you go on that.
There wasn't guns involved, so I don't quite get it. No, it's still that awkward moment still hurts. Like, you know how you get those awkward moments when you watch movies, and if they get awkward, like you want to like back out of the room.
Oh no, that happens to me a lot. Not as much as it used to, but like
Good.
I used to have to leave the room for Meet the Parents. There were scenes where I literally would have to get up and leave the room because I couldn't take it, and I would just listen to the audio, and then finally, when it was over, I'd walk back in.
Did you ever get through Meet the Fockers?
No, I
No,
did not.
that one seems worse.
That one was worse because I didn't make it through that one because I didn't engage with it. I didn't like it. It wasn't entertaining. It just kind of turned into an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I get the humor, but
Sure.
it's not my kind of humor. So I just
Mhm.
kind of watch it like, why are these people yelling at each other? This isn't that big of a deal. Just follow normal social, norms, and you'll avoid half the plot for this episode.
Just
That's that's how I took that movie, and it's like, okay, I see why other people like it, but it's not my thing.
Yeah, I can understand that. There are some movies that are like that where you're like, everyone in this movie's insane. If everybody would just be a person about something for once, then I
Yeah,
think we would be okay and we wouldn't have a plot to this movie and there wouldn't be any tension or conflict.
exactly.
No, I get that. So I think we're ready to dig in. Do you wish want to dig into
Okay.
this?
Yeah, yeah. With the new stuff that we have for the week, we're
Yeah,
doing that one.
let's hey, without Alan, let's kick this off the right way.
Okay.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, sure. You do it. It's okay.
Hey everybody, welcome to Watch This Podcast. I'm Devin,
And I'm Ryan,
and I'm Devin.
and
I had to loop it around.
and I'm also Ryan. So
So today, before we go ahead and talk about a real movie where I had Ryan watch the 2010 version of True Grit, which we'll talk about later, I want to know, did we watch anything this week?
well, my wife and I finally sat down and watched the new The Witches movie. That's the remake of the one from like 89 or 1990. I forget what year it was actually in. Or
This is the one
94,
with
93.
based on the Roald Dahl book with Anne
Yeah.
Hathaway in it.
Mm-hmm. Where
Got
the
it.
mice turn the kids to mice.
I don't know anything about it. I haven't seen the
Oh,
original. I
you've...
haven't read the book.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so then I'll add that to my list, and we'll see that
Okay.
eventually. But I found it entertaining. I liked it. I think because of nostalgia,
Mm-hmm.
I still like the original one better. I'm not gonna say it's better than the new one, but I'm gonna say it's the one that I grew up with, so it's the one that I enjoy more.
Sure.
You know, um, but a few things on it that are non-spoilery and don't have to do with the storyline.
Okay.
Um, I like the actors that they picked. I like the modern twist they put on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can also see why a bunch of people were upset about the design of the hands for the witches. Did you hear about this?
I don't. That means nothing to me. Tell me what that means.
Okay. Okay, so there's a group. There were a group of people that suffer from a genetic or like a birth defect
Okay.
that has to do with the formation of the hand, and a bunch of people with this health issue were very upset at the movie to how they depicted the witch's hands, like the big reveal of like the witch's like scary looking hands, and it's pretty much the I love you symbol without
Oh.
the fingers. It's just the nub. So, like, it's
Okay.
that, and then their fingers are longer than normal. The problem is, that's all they did.
So
They didn't make the fingers claws, or they didn't make it, really deformed fingers. It was just a normal hand with elongated fingers, missing the two middle ones.
they just
Which
made it a real
is
medical condition. Like they just.
it looked like a real medical condition because I know
Ew.
people who have that issue, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, now I see what they were talking about. I could definitely see why people would be upset at this.
Ew.
Um,
Ew.
so that was one of those things where, like, when it came out and people were, the toxic sewage that is, the Facebook comment section.
Yeah.
We're full of people like, oh, people just need to grow up. People need to get thicker skin. Like, this
Oh
has nothing to
goodness.
do with
Oh.
that. Like that, like that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it firsthand and knowing people that have that problem, um, yeah, no, they had a right to complain about it because they didn't like. They did everything else great. Like the witches' mouths are huge, and they have sharp, pointy teeth, and the whole like Joker thing, but it actually splits open.
Oh, weird. Ew.
They've got like a snake tongue thing. Like it's legit kind of scary
Yeah.
for the audience that this was for. Like I could see it actually giving kids nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was ew. And other things that they did with the witches were cool and were interesting, but the hand thing was just like, really, this is as far you're gonna go on that?
So I didn't know. So I now that you mentioned hand thing, I think I remember there's being something about the hands, but I didn't remember specifics. So
Yeah.
they're more quote unquote deformed than just like their hands. Like are they like these
Oh
other
yeah.
creatures? Like it's not.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're not human. Like
Okay, got it.
this isn't like a human woman or male decided to um like become friends with Satan and then becomes a witch.
Sure.
Like these are demons. Like
Oh,
these
weird.
are like demon creatures that look like humans, but like they're something else. And
Okay.
I can see where people who grew up with I could see where people who are like real, not gatekeepers, but just like have a real strong connection to the original one would watch this and go ew,
Sure.
just in general to it. But to be honest, it's not bad.
Really?
And I could definitely see like an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old watching this
Hmm.
and having a strong connection to this the way that like I do to the original The Witches movie.
Are the feet the same as the hands too?
Mm-mm.
Oh no, the feet are
No,
different.
these witches have no toes.
They have no toes. It's just like
They have no toes. It's just
nubbins.
like nubs, just where the toes would come out of the foot.
Yeah.
Just nothing. Just
Nothing.
chop.
Oh, okay. But that's not to be weird about it. It's also a medical condition, right? Like that too is
I have
something.
no idea, but that was in the original. Like that's in the book. Like
Got
that
it.
whole thing about not having toes. Like that's part of the whole
Oh,
like lore thing.
part of the demon thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you would add this to the list. Which one are you adding to the list then? Are you
Oh,
adding
the
this one?
original.
Oh, you're adding the original to the list.
The original. I like the ending to the original better.
Did they change endings?
I think they stuck more to the book ending I could be
Okay.
completely wrong. The original could be more like the book. I have
Hmm.
no idea. I've never read it.
Hmm.
But there's something. There is a very big difference between the endings that I'm not going to say until we do the original. I'm not going to say.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see this now because it was something that I'd always wanted to watch. I heard that this movie came out. I heard that it was good. I heard there was this controversy and just went, okay, understood. And then it
Yeah.
kind of fell by the wayside. So, and I think that I think even Romana's seen the original. So this is, I didn't even know this was a thing that people knew. Where does this fall in Roald Dahl's collection of movies for you? Is this
Okay.
better than
Roald
James?
Dahl.
He's
Who's.
he's the author that wrote the original book. He
Oh,
did
okay.
James and the Giant Peach. I think he also
Oh,
did. I think he did the Iron Giant.
okay.
He did Big Friendly, or he did Big Friendly Giant. That one too, the one that just came out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think he also did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay. So, like the movie adaptations,
Yeah.
which one do you think is well? To be honest, if you were to like put all of those out in like Blu-rays in front of me, I'd
Hmm.
probably grab James and the Giant Peach first to watch.
Would
But
you
that's
do?
because I like but that's because I like stop motion animation, the way that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the bugs. I just, I like the story. Um but it belongs in that category. It belongs in
Yeah.
that list of movies. It does. The original one, I'd say anyway. I'm not sure about this one yet, but simply because of all of those movies, like we grew up with those movies. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there were older movies. This is a new one, so you're kind of taking the new Witches movie and throwing it in with like the new Chocolate Factory
Right.
or newer Chocolate Factory movie. So those I think kind of line up.
Yeah. Which did you like that one?
I did. I liked
Yeah.
it. And to be honest, I'm kind of on the fence on which one I'd rather watch over the other
Wow. Okay.
because I like them both for different reasons.
Sure.
So
Strong
they're
endorsement.
pretty much even.
Also, I
Yeah.
see in chat that Miss Little Moon has seen the original movie, saw the new one, and read the book. So we're gonna have to have her on for when we do that episode. So let me know when that's coming because she sounds like the resident expert here. Because
Yeah, definitely. If she's read the book, then she can pinpoint the differences between, what they followed in the original, what they didn't follow in the new one, and vice versa. So,
when specifically why they made the changes that they did,
yeah.
which is what I like. And this whole conversation, I think, feeds just so brilliantly into the conversation that we're going to have today. Ryan, I made you watch a movie. I also made Alan watch a movie, but he's not here to throw in his 2 cents. So the movie that we watched today is, give me 1 second to do that sweet, sweet transition. Boom. Look at that. Transitioned. The movie that we're doing today is the 2010 movie True Grit. Now, this was directed by the Cohen brothers, who are some of my favorite directors. I don't know if they're tied with Edgar Wright, I think, is my favorite directors. The Cohen brothers. They're also the ones, Ryan, that did they did remember Barton Fink when I had you watch that, the movie where what's his name? I can't remember his name. The one where there was a serial killer living in the hotel, and they were both living in a hotel. The guy moved out to Florida or moved out to California to write a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one. So it's the same people. They also did Fargo.
Monk's brother.
Yeah. Monk's brother.
Monk's brother.
Exactly. Monk's brother goes to write a book. Yeah. So it's these
Yeah.
people as a director. It stars Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, and Haley Steinfeld, who is in Hawkeye right now.
And who's in Pitch Perfect too.
I didn't know that.
Oh no. The main girl in it, the 14-year-old.
Yeah.
In True Grit, yeah.
Yeah.
She's the legacy in Pitch Perfect too.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's
I'll have to rewatch that.
That's where I recognized her. Oh, the Pitch Perfect movies are always on, except for 3. My wife and I didn't really care to watch a third one, so we just have the first 2.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Those movies are my guilty pleasure movies. I love acapella like nobody's business, so I love that. Also, it was
so you're
nice.
a fan of Pentatonics.
Oh yeah, very much so. Oh yeah. There's also an acapella group called, I think they're called like D harmony or something, and they do all Disney harmony or all Disney
Yeah.
acapella. Oh, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, this 2010 movie is a remake of the 1969 True Grit movie. That one stars uh, John Wayne and Kim Darby as the two leads in that one. So before I dig too much into this movie, talk about the lore, talk about all of the stuff that I prepared for today, I just want some honest hot takes. Ryan, you went into this last week saying I don't like westerns at all.
Yeah.
So this is where you're coming from. Ryan, what did you think of this movie?
I still don't like westerns, but it was a good story. Still don't like...
All right, all right. Care to elaborate?
Okay, so I like the idea of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I find it funny that like the title, and they even say that like Jeff Bridges' character has like you've got true grit. It's like
Yeah.
no, it's like no, you have true grit, gal. Like you're the one that's got the true grit here because you're peddling to everyone in this movie to do what you want, and you've got everybody wrapped around your finger, and I'm just going like wow, but like there's and see the thing is the issues that I have with westerns is not something that can be easily fixed or changed because
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like the aesthetic.
Okay, fair. So you don't like the opening shot of
I'm
this movie where it panned out on the town and the trains going in front of it and the
I mean
music swells.
like that's fine and all. It's just it's it's one of those things where like when I watch a movie and I like it, I like to get wrapped up into it. Same
Yeah.
thing with video games, same thing with any other type of like visual video entertainment.
Okay.
I like to get sucked into it and I like it when a movie makes me want to, you know, um play with my imagination in that world.
Okay. Okay.
Like with the Division video games. The reason why I like it so much
Mm-hmm.
is because physically, if that whole scenario were to happen, without my medical equipment, I'd be dead, pretty much. After a certain point, because
Sure.
I couldn't find any more of it, and I would eventually just be stuck in a situation where you know, I
Right.
die. um, and the video game kind of lets me live out, a to live out in a time or place that I physically would not be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got like the Star Wars and Star Trek, like even though it's the same type of like Western, because they're both the same thing. Star Trek and Star Wars were both started on the same premise, a Western in space,
Right.
and that whole and those worlds I like to wrap myself up in occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
I have no interest in going back in the past and envisioning a life in there because it's easy for me to think of and envision myself getting wrapped up in a world that's in the future
Mm-hmm.
because it's the future. You can kind of change the way you like fantasize about it of like using your imagination to like live in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a hard block in my brain that says, no, I can't find any enjoyment in getting wrapped up in the past because if I was born even 10 years earlier than what I was, my
Mm-hmm.
life would be completely different because of my medical history.
And I was gonna ask, so where does that stop then? Like born in the '80s is a no for you. Born in like the
No, no, no. Well, I mean, I was born in 85. So,
oh,
like, if
okay,
I was
okay.
born in 75, my medical treatment would be a lot different
Oh
just
wow.
because of medical advancements between 75 and 85. My
Mm-hmm.
medical treatment would be a lot different,
Sure.
and I wouldn't have the freedom of mobility that I do
Oh
now
wow.
than if I was born in 75.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we're talking about like watching a movie in like the, Western expansion era,
Mm-hmm.
Civil War veterans going out and making a living on the plains, like that whole thing
Yeah.
doesn't interest me at all because like even living on the west or east coast during the time period, I can't envision myself having a good life during that era.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff about that era that I also don't like. Um, and it's just like
Yeah.
I'd be like, Jeff, I'll take Jeff Bridges' character for an example.
Okay.
I I would not be able to handle running into people who talked like that.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask was how did you feel about his speech pattern, his accent, his like way of talking?
It it fits what he does. It fits the
Mm-hmm.
fact that he's a drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And just from history documents that we have, people talked like that because of
Yeah.
just slang and slang and a mixture of accents that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things where I would not. I just couldn't. I could not walk into a town or a bar and listen to just having the background noise being that by like half the people in there.
Sure. I mean, so
Like like the like the like the doctor that comes walking out of the woods with the bear rug on.
I love that character. So one of the things that I do like about westerns, and one of the things that will draw me into that world, is I think exactly what you mentioned, where I like when they show some of the realities of what it was like to live back then, where it's
Yeah.
like it's very easy to have a very very poorly portrayed western that just kind of looks like the 90s, but it's horses instead of cars. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's not a TV, but like, oh, we got that fancy electric wagon or that horseless carriage, and it kind of looks like the 90s. And this, I think they do a good job of showing you that, like, some of this stuff is just gross here. And,
Yeah.
like the kind of harsh realities of what living in that world is. And I think that might be what captivates some people. Like, I think
Yeah.
there's
And I'm sorry, I didn't
oh,
mean to cut you off.
no. I would say, I think there's a certain sense of, like, machismo that comes with like being like a root tootin' cowboy in the West. I don't care about anyone but me. That like John Wayne seemed to embody at the time that like just I cannot connect with at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part is, and that's why, and this is why I am fine with Western styled movies.
Mm-hmm.
That like let's take any action hero renegade movie that's set in any time frame.
Sure.
It's pretty much a Western. One guy against the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. I'm fine with the Western stylization
Mm-hmm.
for a story. When you start actually setting it in the like Wild West
Mm-hmm.
per se, that's when I'm just like, oh, do I have to watch it? Do I really have to see another cowboy hat? Do I really need to?
So were there too many cowboy hats in this movie for you then? Like,
Well, you've got so many cowboys walking around. Of course, you're gonna see too many.
well, I mean, so okay, so then for you, you said that you liked the plot. Did the
Yeah.
Western setting of the movie impact the plot at all for you and stop you enjoying the actual plot of the movie, which is pretty simple?
It never stopped me from enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see where this could have been done in a different, like I could definitely see it being done in a different, a different era
Mm-hmm.
or a different timeline. There are aspects of it though where it's where the story is better suited in the West,
Mm-hmm.
to where it fits because you have the whole thing with how how the law works, how you have the Native American reservations
Sure.
set up, and how like the law is different between the two places, and
Mm-hmm.
it's where outlaws could easily hide. You've got the nomads that also live out there on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So the story definitely fits. There are certain aspects of it that fit better in the whole like West, you know,
Yeah.
setting. But it never prevented me from liking it. It was just one of those things where I just knew I was watching, a Western set in the West, and I just was like, whatever, I'm just gonna watch it. Like,
Yeah.
it's the movie you picked. I'm gonna watch it. I'm just gonna focus on what's going on and not worry about, the fact that this is an era of, our country's history that I have absolutely no interest in.
I mean, you know what, and that's totally fair as long as you didn't let that
Yeah.
take away from your enjoyment
Yeah,
of it.
no. Like I said, I like the story. I like the
Mhm.
premise. So
Well, I wanted to get into that a little bit. So the premise
Yeah.
itself is that that Haley Steinfeld, I keep messing her name up. Haley Steinfeld's character Maddie lost her father. Her father got murdered by Josh Brolin's Tom Chaney. She then goes on her own into a town to go hire a marshal to go track him down. Marshall ends up being Jeff Bridges' Rooster Cogburn. They also run into Matt Damon's. It's LaBeouf. They call him LaBeef the whole movie, and
Yeah, I know.
I get why they do it, but the entire movie I spent the time going, they're wrong. They're saying it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But they run into his LaBeef, who is a Texas Ranger who is also hunting the same person. And I'm just going to say that Western hijinks ensue, because essentially that's what happens for most of the movie, is that Western-themed hijinks ensue.
Yeah.
It's a pretty kind of simple setup that I think I've seen in a lot of other movies. Just the whole like revenge and what the cost of revenge is, and those kinds of things. Did you find that it did that justice at all? And if you want, I'll start. I do like a lot of what this movie does with the like theme of revenge in and of itself. I
Okay.
like that it shows the cost. I like that it shows, you know, specifically for Maddie's character, or for Maddie, I like the physical cost that having that revenge gave her, and whether that was kind of even worth it in the end. I think was a really interesting kind of theme to bring up. And I just like her character in general. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get it because this movie came out 11 years ago, so I'm just
Mhm.
gonna say it. Getting the revenge cost her her arm.
Yeah, it did.
And it gave her, because she was 14 when everything happened, because she says she's 14 multiple
Hmm.
times in the movie, the life experience of being there and going through those events really affected her. She
Yeah.
didn't she never got married, meaning she never formed that kind of a relationship.
Hmm.
She never bent into social norms to want to get married. um and I feel like the experience of being out there and being in the West, she kind of got a taste of what it was like being one of those nomads.
Hmm.
And she was just like, okay, fine, this is what suits me.
Yeah.
And she carried that on, with the rest of her life. And I didn't really sense any regret from her when they
No.
show her at the end as 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 an adult, even though it cost her her arm.
Hmm.
Um, but the one thing I am going to say, the two things I absolutely hated about this movie,
Tell me.
and it has and it and it has to do with the adult, is the opening narration was like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Was it really? Why? What didn't you like about it?
Um, and people have to understand when I say this that, well, do you know if that's that woman's actual voice or was she faking an accent?
I think she was doing an accent. Let me find
Okay.
her real quick. Yeah, I think that's an
Because
accent. It's Elizabeth Marvel plays the older version of her.
because there's a big difference between someone who has a deep Southern accent
Hmm.
and somebody who's portraying a deep Southern accent, especially one from like that era.
Yeah.
And it was painful for me to listen to. And the fact that like and it's like, I get that they wanted to set up the time period,
Hmm.
so she was using words that were appropriate and in regular use, explaining what happened to her dad.
Hmm.
But the accent plus that phrasing, I rolled my eyes and I put my I went like that for like a good 30 seconds while I was listening to the narration, because it's not that it doesn't sound educated to me, it's
Sure.
just that I'm just like, I can't, because I mean there's another joking reason why I have a hard time watching Western themed movies set in, Western era.
Hmm.
Was it the band Primus? That music video where they're all dressed up in the rubber cowboy suits.
I don't know that one. I'm looking it up now, by the way.
Yeah, so I also get that stuck in my head whenever I see stuff like that.
Wow.
So
Yeah, did you?
yeah, so yeah,
I just found the
so
song that's attached to. Oh boy.
Yeah. You should watch that video when we're done here.
Okay.
Like they're wearing full body rubber like cartoon bodysuits,
Mm-hmm.
and I also get that stuck in my head. But anyway, it's just I can't when it's a fake accent
Mm-hmm.
like that. It's bad.
It was too much.
It's it's too much. I'd rather them just hire someone who has a southern accent naturally
Mm-hmm.
and let them talk because it's better. It sounds better. It sounds better to me. It's not like nails on a chalkboard.
Sure.
And then the second thing I hated about this movie was the ending song, which almost ruined the ending for me. The credits when the credits start running,
Yeah.
because I have a very versatile reaction to certain types of country music,
Okay.
and that was one of them.
So hold on. Remind me. I don't even remember the.
I
even
don't know.
remember it.
As soon as I heard the first like 3 lines of lyrics, I turned it off.
Really.
Yeah.
I don't remember having any strong reaction to it. So what about that kind of country music don't you like?
There's either too much twang or there's too much waviness on the vocalization of the singing.
Sure.
And when you
Okay.
have both of them going on at the same time,
It's
I
just too
will
much.
like it's again nails on a chalkboard to me.
Well, that's definitely a genre of Western music. I'll call it Western just to justify the Blues Brothers. We have both kinds, country and Western.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I'll justify that one as Western, but it's definitely a genre because there are some pieces in that genre that I do really really like, specifically for
And-
that vocal like twang. I think.
And this, I can't stand the vocal twang.
Sure, fair.
I can't.
Yeah,
But
totally fair.
I watched the trailer to show Kristen the trailer, which he got home from work.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, this was the movie we watched, and I'd show the trailer. Because it's 10 years old,
Mhm.
the trailers to these movies are like 3 minutes long, and they pretty much give you a summary
Of the whole
because they
thing.
want to sell you on it before you watch it to
Yep.
see if you're actually going to like it or not, which honestly, I like those trailers. I don't care if it gives away too much.
Yeah.
I like those trailers because I like to know what I'm getting myself into for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Right.
But they had Johnny Cash's "God's Going to Cut You Down."
Oh, love that song.
And it was a perfect feel for the trailer,
Yeah.
and it would have been a perfect song for the ending.
I agree. I think that would have been a much better pick. Yeah.
But no, and before I say this, I like Dolly Parton as a person.
Mhm.
Just putting that out there. I love Dolly Parton as a person.
Yeah.
I can't stand her music. It was
Mhm.
like somebody took a Dolly Parton song from like her early career and then put it to 11 on like the westernness of the music, and I had to turn it off.
Oh, that's a shame. 9 to 5 is an anthem of mine. I love that song.
I like the movie. The movie's funny.
Didn't know there was a movie.
Oh my god.
Add it to the list. I like the song. We need to talk about this one. So
Okay.
you mentioned something about specifically the opening narration that I thought was kind of striking about this movie, and that was how
Yeah.
all of the characters spoke. I had such a hard time, and I actually didn't find this in any of my research. Is this just the Western vernacular, do you think? Or are they
Yeah.
purposely speaking in like very weirdly, sometimes proper terms?
Western slang, Westerns, the way people talked,
Mhm.
it was a mixture because you had people from, New York, you had people from Atlanta, you had people from Boston, you had people from, Florida coming in and, claiming land and opening up shops.
Mhm.
So you had a weird mixture of accents and different languages mixing together.
Sure.
And so when that happens, that's how you get this vernacular of people speaking where you have a sentence full of slang, but then right in the middle of it is like a 15 syllable word that like a college grad only knows. Like it's a really odd thing, and that honestly is not a problem with me.
Mhm.
Like I was listening to it, I was following it along. It was just I found it funny that like when they show the girl
Mhm.
and she's talking to people, It was fine. I had no problem with it. It was the adult version of her that I couldn't understand.
Right, you couldn't stand.
Yeah, that I couldn't stand. And in fact, one of my favorite moments of the film has to do with her when she's bartering or trading for
Oh, for the
the
horses
horses and
in the
everything.
beginning.
And it was right at the end.
Uh-huh.
And it was when that banker or trader or property owner, whatever the guy
Yeah.
was, I don't know what he. She starts talking again, and he gets nervous and he goes, "Wait a minute, are we trading again?" And he's almost like scared, like
and you can see like yeah, he had that like fear because he's like, oh no, not again.
yeah. Like it was one of those things where, like, that scene I think made me really like her character.
Yeah.
Because it really showed how far she was going to go to get to see justice for um her father.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I don't know, I really like the courtroom scene.
Oh, where they introduced Jeff Bridges' character?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not really because they were introducing Jeff Bridges' character at the way the proceedings went. Because as you can tell, nothing's really changed.
No, it hasn't at all. It's really weird. And like while he was giving his testimony, like that has some of my favorite bits in it. And the Cohen brothers are so good at this like really dry sense of humor, where he was like, "And then did you move next to the campfire?" And someone goes, "Objection, leading question." And he goes, "Okay, what did you next?" Jeff Bridges goes, "I moved next to the campfire." Like,
Yeah.
he just said the thing that you said before, just proper this time. And it's those
Yeah.
little bits that make me love the Cohen brothers. Like,
Mhm.
I love their writing so much. And I mean, the screenplay, I think, was done by both Joel and Ethan this time, which, like, I love. Like, keep doing more of
Mhm.
those, please.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think for me, the dialogue definitely helped to draw me into the world a little bit more. Just because it I don't know how authentic it was, but it definitely had personality, I think.
Well, I I feel like Jeff Bridges' character was played up
Yep.
because there's a stereotype Western character for American Westerns that has a guy that like slurs his speech all the time,
Yep.
has like the growl in his throat,
Mm-hmm.
whenever he talks. Um, and it's a common thing to see in in uh, in a lot of westerns because even the doctor, Dr. Bear, I'm gonna call him.
Dr. Bear, good.
Um,
That's fair.
I'm gonna call him Dr. Bear. He has the same thing, but he's more like kind of like a belcher. Like he kind of belched his words a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Matt Damon's character.
Yeah.
The
The Texas Ranger.
I really feel he was there for comic relief because I see like his character reminded me of like the spaghetti westerns
Yeah.
that were on in the 50s that were made in Italy.
Mhm.
You had the really fashionable, law enforcement cowboy that was out there that, that had the duel every week and shot up
Mhm.
every town that they were in, and they were, like the Hollywood star hero of the West.
Yep.
And then you had Jeff Bridges' character, which was more of like the drunken madman who gets angry that's there to like set things right, regardless if it follows the law or not.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of, like the anti-hero cowboy. So I feel like both of their characters were written to be more like stereotypes
Sure.
than actual like people that lived during that time period.
Mm-hmm.
You had everyone else to fill in that gap.
But they could play it big because everyone else was grounding the movie, basically.
Yeah, and the same thing with the Ned, or the leader of that outlaw group.
Yeah, Lucky Ned.
Yeah, Lucky Ned, because I mean his teeth were absolutely ridiculous. He was disgusting. He spat every time he talked. He wore the sheep wool skin, breeches or whatever those things they wear over their jeans to
Mm-hmm.
for the saddles. even his character was kind of like way, off to the side a little bit, just like with Jeff Bridges
Mm-hmm.
and Matt Damon, and everyone else was more like grounded, like that guy that she was bartering with,
Oh yeah, yeah,
where he's like, wait, like to me that he definitely sounded like someone that would have actually existed
yeah.
during that time period. Like even the lawyers, the judge, like everybody else in this movie felt like they belonged in the time period, and then you had these three stereotypical American Western characters thrown into it.
I mean, Lucky Ned, to be honest, sometimes felt a little bit like Biff Mad Dog Tannen from Back to the Future 3. It's like, I do my killing before breakfast. I'm like, all right, calm down. Well,
Yeah, and that.
I did want to get into the Jeff Bridges character because you mentioned
Yeah,
him
yeah,
quick.
yeah.
I think that it's interesting how they play him in this movie because this role originally in 1989 or 1969 when it came out, this won John Wayne an Oscar as Best Actor.
I
Yeah.
need to see that. I
Oh my
need to
gosh.
see that.
I don't get it. So he plays it really weird, and it's actually a really weird time in John Wayne's career. Do you know much about John Wayne's career?
He's pretty much the George Clooney of his era.
I mean, basically. But so essentially, he'd been making movies for ages, and I literally just looked up all of his movies in order and had to scroll over like 3 pages to the right to even get to 1969 because this guy was so freaking prolific. But when this movie came out, there was a new generation of moviegoers who had grown up with movies. It was called the film generation, which sounds hilarious by today's standards. But they viewed John Wayne as the old guard and is very much a staunch defender of kind of old-fashioned ideals. To give you a sense, this movie came out just after a movie called Green Berets, which was essentially a love letter to being in Vietnam.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch.
Ouch.
Bad read on John Wayne's part.
Yeah.
So he already wasn't well loved in the newer, hipper generation when True Grit came out. His nomination and win of his Oscar for it, I think, basically was driven by a lot of kind of the older people in this. So it's a lot of this is kind of one of the defining movies of his like career, and it's still kind of hotly contested as to whether or not this should be considered one of his greats.
I don't even know. See that seeing a decent amount of his movies,
Mm-hmm.
I get why he was popular during that era.
Yeah.
I really do. But at a certain point, you can kind of tell where he just stopped trying to actually act a character
Yeah.
and just started doing the same thing for every role that he was in. And unfortunately, I feel like outside of like a very small group of film academics,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be his legacy is just
Yeah.
not, not being, oh man, he's so, it's like, oh man, he was so good. He was able to play all of, it's like all of these roles completely different and all of his characters were individual people. Like, no, that's not how people are going to think of him. It's going to be, yeah, it's John Wayne.
Right. And well, and that's what I think is interesting about actors is sometimes you get actors that they'll disappear into the role, and you go like, I don't know where the like my like favorite one that I know is a really stereotypic dad one to like is Daniel Day-Lewis. Like
Yeah.
I don't know that I know what Daniel Day-Lewis looks like in real life. I know what he looks like as Lincoln and as the guy from There Will Be Blood. But like
Yeah.
and Gangs of New York, I don't know if I could spot him on the street if I passed him. But he disappears into a role. But then there are also actors like that are just there for the star power of it.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise in every movie. I mean, every
Yeah.
movie you get Tom Cruise in, he's gonna do the action hero landing, like where he like crouches on a knee, almost a superhero landing. He's gonna do his like stupid one-liners. Like that's Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, all of them. The Expendable movies.
Expendable movies.
The Expendable movies. All of those actors are just they're in it. It's whatever. But yeah, and that's another reason why like I've seen enough of actual classic Hollywood westerns,
Yeah.
and then I've seen a handful of like the stuff as they come out, and I've seen clips of it. And I'm just like, I've seen this. It's it's one of the reasons why like I got so into Star Trek, and
Yeah.
this is something that I'm gonna parallel.
Okay, go for it. I'm on board.
I've seen a lot of Star Trek, obviously.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of Star Wars. I've seen a lot of other type of like sci-fi space, like war and Western style, space movies
Mm-hmm.
that other science fiction shows that deal with kind of the same premise, like Battlestar Galactica,
Mm.
or there's another one, Battlestar Galactica and Babylon
Oh
5.
yeah.
I would like to watch those. I really would. But every time I try to get into it, I'm like, you know, I'm, I'm, I'm like Butters. I think it was Butters in the one episode of South Park. Simpsons did it.
Right.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, Star Trek did that. Oh, Star Wars did this.
Sure.
And I just kind of lose focus on it. And this is one of the issues with like going back and watching these older shows that have a strong fan base after you've seen a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
You just kind of lose interest because you're like, oh, man, I really can't sit through 20 episodes before I finally connect with one of these characters, because every time I see one of these plots, I'm thinking to myself, oh, season 5 of Next Gen did this better.
Right.
Oh, Star Wars, episode 3 did this idea better. Like it's tough. So
what do you think did better than, like, did this plot or this kind of thing better? Like, do you have
there's a lot of revenge movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really think about that, after and during, but I've definitely seen this type of, like needing to get revenge plot before. I don't have any at the top of my head at the moment, but I mean, it's decent. It's
Yeah.
good. Did this thing win any awards or get nominated for anything?
It did. So it won 3 awards. It won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Young Performer.
Okay.
Which,
Yeah,
I mean, makes
I can
sense.
see
She
that.
knocks it out of the
Yeah.
park. It won a BAFTA Award for Best Cinematography, and it won.
I definitely get that.
And then it won a National Society of Film Critics Award for Best Cinematography.
Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no, Yeah, I definitely agree with all of those. I do have to say I'm not sure if the line "goddamn ducks" needed to be in it, because I feel like it was funny enough that he was sleeping in like a storeroom to a shop. I don't think they needed to show him fighting off dead hanging ducks from the ceiling and go
Right.
"goddamn ducks." I'm not sure that was absolutely needed, but I'm happy they put it in anyway.
That was actually, I think that scene was actually taken from the original. There were a couple of parts that are just ripped straight from the original that apparently, like, when they were doing the tour for this movie, the Cohen brothers were like, we're taking it from the source material. Because this, like Witches, was a book, and then an old movie, and then a current movie. Current is a strong word. They kept saying, we're taking this from the source material, but apparently there are shots in this that are just, shot for shot the original sometimes. And I think that was one of them. They do interesting things between them, and I did want to get into the differences to hear what you thought about them. Let me just find that quick. So one of the things that they end up doing in the original that they didn't do in this one is they actually end up killing off Matt Damon's character in the original one.
Well, he does get shot.
Yeah, it was actually when he gets like bonked on the head at the very end. That's actually him dying in the original.
Oh. His character was kind of a loudmouth, so it's okay.
Well, I mean, I think the one thing that I like, and this is actually another difference between the original and this one, is that in this one they actually gave his character tension. So his character was after Thanos. His character was after Thanos because he was chasing him as a ranger, and he wanted to turn him into Texas, or in Texas, because of his reward, which put him directly in conflict with Maddie, which I really liked. In the original, he wasn't in conflict. He just was along for the ride. Like, he's like, okay, fine, we'll all get him together, and there wasn't that conflict there.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
John Wayne.
You think John Wayne?
I really do. I mean, It's one of those things where it's like, why are we going to have the other star fight our main hero? That wouldn't make any sense.
I wonder if that was in his like rider at some point though. Because like there are some like The Rock has a rider I think where he's not allowed to lose a fight in a movie.
I don't know about that though.
You don't think that's true?
I really need to watch a lot of the movies and see if that's well, because I mean, he's also always playing the hero in
Right.
these short action films, so of course he's not going to lose a fight.
But like that's a narrative arc though. If he loses the fight at the end of Act 2 to show him at his lowest point, like that's a good natural progression, but instead they have to tweak his movies in such a way that he like loses all his friends at the end of Act 2.
So here's my thing.
Okay.
When you have The Rock doing a modern take on like the 80s, 90s action movie, where it's literally just an action, like you go to see fights, explosions, and funny one-liners.
Yeah.
The only story rules or laws that I hope they, stick to is just build up to climax, have climax happen, and then movie ends. I don't really care about personal development of any character. I'm going to see one or a group of guys go blow something up, win, and then credits. Like the Expendables. Like the Expendables.
Fair. You know what? Fair. you know the kind of movie you want him in, and then that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Riddick. No, that's Vin Diesel. I was gonna say just like the Riddick movies, but that's Vin Diesel.
Good. So another thing they changed between the movies is the fate of Rooster Cockburn, so of Jeff Daniels' character.
Okay.
In this one, they flash forward a couple of years and show you that he passes away. In the original movie, it just ends where it ends. And in fact, they have a sequel to it and a TV show on the adventures of Rooster Cogburn.
So basically, they did the same thing that Marvel's doing, where they take a movie that was a hit, and they're like, "Oh, we can turn this into a franchise."
Mm-hmm. And they
made a TV show after it. Yeah, it's whatever.
Not a fan.
Back then, I think I was. I'm pretty sure that if I grew up and was like in my mid-30s, if I didn't have the health issue, and I grew up in that time and place to watch that, to be like, let's say I was 36 or 37 when the original True Grit came out, I'd be like, oh, cool, there's going to be a TV show? Of course I'll watch it. Do you want to know why? Because there's only 4 channels on my TV.
Yeah, you know what? Fair.
Entertainment's at a real prime, like...
They're premium.
Yeah, is at a premium, and if I'm 36, 37, I'm probably going to be someone who isn't really too hot on war, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, well, I'd probably have the same feelings I have towards that, him as I do today towards, like, George Clooney or something.
Oh, sure.
Which means there are movies I like him in, but I see him as more of like a... George Clooney does not make me interested in a movie.
Okay.
He is not that kind of actor for me. I have to see what kind of movie he's in, and like, ooh, George Clooney and something like that, that sounds interesting. Like, that's the way I take that. Like Peacemaker.
Okay, so like him in context is what interests you, not necessarily just him in general. Yeah,
like him in Leatherheads, I tried watching that, knowing that it's about, like, it's pretty much based on the beginning of the Chicago Bears franchise.
Yeah. Didn't do it?
I got to a scene and a half into that movie and turned it off.
Wow, holy cow.
Yeah, I did not particularly like watching a football roll for 40 yards for 20 seconds and then having a bunch of muddy football players run over in a scrum. And the pacing was just, I'm like, if this whole movie's going to be paced like this, and then the scene after that, they were talking, and they were like at a restaurant or something. I'm like, no, okay, this movie's not for me. I saw Old Brother Where Art Thou
Yeah,
once.
yeah.
It was okay. He
Okay.
was good in it. But if I ever want to I think I've it's sad. I watched the trailer.
Uh
I watch one of those like 3 minute summarizing trailers
huh.
and I'm good.
Yeah. That's like all the more you need.
Yeah, exactly.
So then, what about like something like him in? Oh, I'll just name another movie. Uh, Hold on, is this actually who I think it is? Have you seen him in Burn After Reading? To just kind of go along the Cohen brothers.
Kristen and I got halfway through that and turned it off.
Okay, okay, fair.
That's a bit too corner brothers That's a bit too much because I mean
Mm-hmm.
the trailer for that when it first came out looked hysterical,
Mm-hmm.
but then when you watch the movie and it's like they shot everything with a it was it was like they shot everything with an hourglass
Yeah.
and the pacing just like the pacing in the trailer was a lot quicker and I thought it was going to be a lot goofier than what it was, and then we're watching it and I think legitly Kristen looked over to me and said, "Was that one of the jokes from the trailer?" And it was at that point where we're like, "Yeah, this is not the movie that we thought it was." And we turned it
You
off.
know, they did the exact same thing for a movie called Hail Caesar. It's also a George Clooney vehicle with the Coen brothers.
Yeah,
If you watch the trailer for it, it looks like a madcap comedy in old timey Hollywood. And I ended up taking Romana and like all of my family to go see it because I'm like, I've never seen this movie, but I love the Coen brothers. I love the cast. The trailer looks hilarious. I
yeah.
loved the movie. Every single person came out saying it's the worst thing we've ever seen. Which I mean, I think it's just the Coen brothers style, to be honest.
And I think that helped. I think their style, the way that they film
Hmm.
in a western fits.
Yeah.
I think if they did a lot more of their stuff in a like, in like let's say the early point of Las Vegas or whatever
Hmm.
or something along those lines, I think that would be a little bit I don't know. I feel like the pacing of a western and how they do things fits better.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Cuz I mean, imagine Burn After Reading in the same time and place as True Grit.
I think that would be funny because it's well, it lends itself to a slower pace of life for the West,
Yeah.
and therefore their comedy style fits.
Mhm.
All right, so I think that's all I have on True Grit. Do you have anything else?
Um, Jeff Bridges uses a diss to someone that I really wish was still used
What
today,
is it?
which is when he called, I think, the lawyer a pencil neck.
Oh yeah,
I really wish that was still a thing. I really
that's
wish
such a good insult.
it is. Yeah,
He's
pencil neck.
he's got some good lines in this. All right, so that's all we have today then for You Have to Watch This podcast where we were reviewing the 2010 movie True Grit. Tune in next week where we have a heck of a show next week. We actually have, it seems like a twofer, but I think it's actually like a fourfer. So next week we're actually going to be doing our Christmas special where we all take a look at different Christmas episodes or that we all choose that we haven't seen before. Ryan, did you pick yours?
Yeah, it's gonna be the holiday special they did for BoJack.
Yes. Uh,
So it's a independent Christmas special. It's not part of the series, which I honestly like that it's not part of the series because it would not fit
no, I
in the series.
good. Well, I'm really excited to watch it. Did Alan announce his pick? Do you remember?
He did, but I honestly can't remember what it
I think
was.
I think
Unfortunately,
he's gonna make us watch Ted Lasso. I
yeah, no.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Great. And then
That's it.
I'm still in the middle of picking mine. I had one and then I changed it, and I've been changing it once every like 2 minutes. I'm just gonna pick one and tell you guys tomorrow. But then
Okay.
after the Christmas special, we're also going to be doing a review of the new Spider-Man movie. Now, this marks a special occasion for us because this is the last time I will be live and not know how the Spider Bet turns out. Uh, so I'm a little bit nervous. So we'll see how all that goes. So we'll announce the winner of the Spider Bet next week. We'll review Spider-Man No Way Home, No Way Home. That's right. Yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, and we'll do our Christmas special. But for You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Devin.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And I'm Ryan again.
And thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.